Back then, if you wanted to go from point A to point B, you needed to travel the equivalent distance of Mount Everest without taking a break. And the sun was bigger than it used to be, so you had to know how to swim since there's a high chance that the ice melted. Or you can gather some pigeons, tie them with rope, and let the wind take you to your course. Don't believe me? Why don't you ask your parents? Anywho, here are forgotten modes of transportation. Let's start with the velocipede, also known as the bone shaker. Now, if you think this is one of those dinosaurs our cavemen ancestors used to ride to go from one place to another, or a heavy metal band that uses bones for instrument, well, you're a bit close, but certainly not right. Back in 1817, a German man named Carl von Drey invented a strange device. It had two wheels, no pedals, and was powered by your feet. He called it the loft machine or running machine. Basically, a wooden bike for people who hated walking but had no choice since they had legs. Then in the 1860s, French blacksmith Pierre Micon and his son Ernest took the idea and added pedals to the front wheel. You know what, Dad? Why not add some pedals on the front wheel? You know what, son? Why don't you shut up? Now it was self-propelled, and then they decided to call it a velocipede for some reason. It became popular in France, then spread to the United States. People loved it because it was new, fast, and made you look kind of cool, unless you fell, which was often. The velocipede had a wooden frame with iron tires. This meant it was heavy, loud, and about as smooth as riding a shopping cart down the stairs. People nicknamed it the bone shaker because it shook your whole skeleton. Despite that, it was used for recreation, racing, and short travel. By the 1870s, the bone shaker had competition. The penny farthing, farthing, with its giant front wheel, became the next big thing. It was faster and slightly less bumpy. Also, the Franco-Prussian War broke out and factories focused on weapons instead of bicycles. Bone shakers were hard to ride, made of heavy materials, and not exactly spine-friendly. Riders often fell or crashed, which was kind of expected since balancing wheels weren't even a thing back then. Helmets? Psh! This is the 1800s. If you broke your skull, your parents would be like, what did we learn? So if you wanted excitement and possible dental surgery, this was your ride. Still, it helped start the bicycle revolution, proving humans will strap themselves to anything with wheels and hope for the best. While the bone shaker didn't last forever, it paved the way for modern cycling. Steam-powered road carriages. In 1769, a French military engineer named Nicolas Joseph Cugnot built the first steam-powered road carriage. He wanted to help move heavy cannons without needing horses, so he made a three-wheeled vehicle with a giant steam boiler. It could go 2.5 miles per hour, which was basically a fast walk. After Cugnot's invention, other inventors in the early 1800s tried improving the idea. British engineers like Richard Trevithick built steam carriages that actually carried people. By the 1830s, companies were offering steam coach services in places like London. Riders were amazed that you could travel without a horse. Meanwhile, horses were probably relieved, but also offended. Steam carriages worked by burning coal or wood to heat water in a boiler. The steam pushed pistons, which turned the wheels. These things were loud, heavy, and looked like rolling teapots. Top speed? Around 15 miles per hour, unless something exploded. Some could carry 8 to 12 passengers, but comfort was not included. And let's not forget the drivers, who had to manage heat, pressure, steering, and not dying all at once. Steam carriages had one big problem: roads. Most roads were built for hooves. In 1865, Britain passed the Red Flag Act, which forced someone to walk in front of every steam carriage waving a red flag. That kind of killed the whole fast travel vibe. Plus, trains came along and did everything better: faster, smoother, and without random explosions. Maintenance was a nightmare. Fuel was expensive, and the general public wasn't a fan of machines that spit fire. So the steam carriage era slowly rolled to a stop, but without it, we might still be riding donkeys to work. Or even worse, walking. So yes, steam carriages were kind of impractical, but they set the stage for actual cars. Well, since you're still here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps support the channel and lets me keep making more videos for you. Thanks. Subscribe. The Autorailer. The Autorailer was an early attempt at combining two transportation modes, which were cars and trains, into one. It was invented in the early 20th century, specifically in the 1910s. The main idea was simple: a vehicle that could drive on regular roads and then transition onto railway tracks to continue traveling. The most famous version was designed by Charles Wilson, an American engineer. He believed in the concept of combining the flexibility of a car with the speed of a train. The idea became popular in some places, especially in the US. During the early 1900s, the promise of a dual-purpose vehicle was appealing for regions where road and rail networks were separate. Instead of requiring a completely separate vehicle for each transportation method, the autorailer offered the possibility to easily switch between them. It was used in some rural and less connected areas where railroads might not always be accessible. These vehicles could save time and be more efficient. In use, the autorailer had a special set of wheels that could allow it to grip the rails and move like a train once it was on track. These wheels could retract, allowing the vehicle to travel like a normal car on regular roads. The autorailer was also designed to be fast, with the ability to reach speeds up to 50 miles per hour, which was pretty impressive for the time. However, the autorailer was eventually phased out due to a combination of factors. The technology was too ahead of its time, and the idea never fully caught on. Maintenance was expensive, and the vehicles were hard to manage due to their dual functionality. Additionally, improvements in road infrastructure and rail systems made it unnecessary to use a hybrid vehicle. The autorailer faded into obscurity, but it remains a fascinating footnote in transportation history. Basically, the people said, why need a car with trains and attached to railroad tracks? I don't know. Zeppelins. Rigged airships, commonly known as Zeppelins, were invented by a German count named Ferdinand von Zeppelin in 1899. He founded a company that would go on to make these massive flying machines. He wasn't exactly looking to invent the next cool thing for air travel. Instead, he was aiming to make a safer, more efficient method of travel through the sky, particularly for military purposes. While the Wright brothers were busy figuring out how to get a plane off the ground, Zeppelin was thinking, you know what? Let's build a giant floating cigar. And so the Zeppelin was born. With its first successful flight in 1900, Zeppelins became popular mainly because they offered something no other air vehicle could: huge cargo and passenger capacity. Imagine being able to travel across the ocean in style. People loved the idea, and the Zeppelins were used for everything from passenger transport to military reconnaissance. They even held record-breaking flights like the LZ-127 Graf Zeppelin, which circled the globe in 1929. The hype reached its peak during the early 1900s. It was like the jet of its time, only with less speed and more taking the scenic route vibes. The Zeppelins were also equipped with weapons, but in peacetime, they were primarily used for air travel, mail delivery, and even advertising. Zeppelins began to fall out of favor for several reasons. The main one? Explosions. The Hindenburg disaster of 1937, which saw a Zeppelin catch fire and crash, was a major blow to airships' reputation. The hydrogen used to keep the airships buoyant was highly flammable, making them a ticking time bomb every time it took off. Plus, airplanes were getting faster and more reliable, making Zeppelins seem old-fashioned and dangerous by comparison. After World War II, airships were mostly phased out in favor of airplanes, which offered quicker travel and better safety. Despite their early promise, Zeppelins just couldn't keep up with the technological advances in aviation. Rocket mail, my personal favorite, because rocket mail is exactly what it sounds like. While it may sound like something from a science fiction movie, it was actually tried out in the early 20th century. The idea was first seriously explored by a German engineer named George von Tiesenhausen, who proposed the use of rockets to carry mail in the 1920s. However, rocket mail is most famously associated with the work of the British inventor Sir George Cayley. He is known for experimenting with early forms of rocket mail in the 19th century. Despite the novelty of the idea, it didn't become widespread until much later, especially during the World War II era. The idea of rocket mail garnered attention in the early 1900s, when countries began experimenting with sending letters and parcels via rocket-powered devices. The concept was considered especially useful in remote or hard-to-reach areas. For example, in 1931, the first successful rocket mail launch took place in India, where rockets were used to deliver mail across rivers. In the 1940s, both the United States and Germany experimented with the use of rockets to transport mail in times of war. It became somewhat of a novelty too, with people sending letters via rockets just for fun. Can you imagine getting a letter shot through the air like it's trying to escape the laws of physics? Yeah, that's why rocket mail is my favorite. Rocket mail was ultimately phased out because, as you might expect, it was inefficient and not exactly reliable. Rockets aren't known for their ability to deliver mail to the right address, especially when they often miss their targets. And as you know, launching a rocket isn't cheap, add in the fact that it was mostly impractical. And it's easy to see why traditional methods of mail delivery, like airplanes and trucks, won in the end. There were also safety concerns. Rockets carrying mail could easily go off course or even explode, which was a significant deterrent. After a few decades of experimentation, rocket mail became obscure and went the way of many strange ideas, out of use, but never quite forgotten. Which of these forgotten modes of transportation you like best? Comment down below, leave a like and subscribe, and see you on the next one. Stay stable.